Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. And you're with your host, Deborah Bailey, and Kerry Heaps is joining us again. And if you are not familiar with this show, you can go to dbcoach.podomatic.com. And also, the show is on iTunes. You can search for Women Entrepreneurs Radio. Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs is another place to find out about the show. And also the blog, Women Entrepreneur Secrets.blogspot.com has all the links for where you can find the show on Podomatic, on iTunes, also on Blog Talk Radio. Has an archive of shows going back 7 years, so that's another place that you can go as well, that you can find the links to take you directly to the different platforms. And you can find out more about me at deborahAbailey.com. Find out more about me, my books, and also some information about the show and also different links as well. So that's another good place for you to stop by. And also my co-host, Kerry Heaps, is the founder and president of Kerry's Network, Inc., a membership-based organization that provides exposure for business owners with access to the media and association directories. And she's also the publisher of Strictly Marketing Magazine and the host of Strictly Marketing Talk Radio. And Kerry has an extensive background in sales, networking, recruiting, and training. And her marketing development book, Marketing Ideas That Make Sense, covers networking, cold calling, establishing yourself as an expert, creating your own media, marketing ideas, and sample scripts. And you can find out more about the magazine at www.strictlymarketingmagazine.com. So what we're going to talk about in this show is how media coverage can benefit your business. And media is very important, and a lot of people out there promising a lot of things for people to get media coverage and get in front of folks. And there's a lot of confusion, I think, as to people wondering what they should be doing, what they should be paying for. How beneficial is it really? So this is our topic for today. And we're going to start out. I'm going to let Kerry answer this wonderful question. How important is media coverage to the average business owner? Because maybe you may think, well, I'm just an average person out here. Do I really need to try to get connected with the media? So, Kerry, why don't you, fill in some information about that? Do you think it's an important thing for the average business owner to really, try to get some coverage for themselves?
Absolutely. And as always, Deb, it's such a great pleasure to co-host with you on these podcasts. And I'm hoping that everybody that's listening is getting some really valuable content out of our shows together. Yes, to answer your question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it? I would rate it as a 9.5. And the reason being is because obviously, as a business owner, you have to get the word out about what you're doing. And, you got to make sales. You have to get customers. You got to get clients, whatever you're looking for your business to sell your product or service. And there's a couple of ways that can be accomplished. Obviously, you can do advertising, you can do networking, you can go do cold calling in person on the telephone. There's different ways that you can go about getting the word out about your business, but one of the most powerful ways is to use the media. Mm-hmm. Get yourself booked on some shows, some podcasts, submit yourself to maybe some of the local TV stations, and also to be able to write blog posts, articles. You got to start establishing yourself as an expert, and that is one of the ways that you're going to make that happen. And one of the things that I have noticed is that when people, and I do this myself, if I go and I visit someone's website, if they have a press page, I always click on that to see, where they've been featured, and it gives you an opportunity and your potential customers and clients an opportunity to go on there. If you've done if you've been on television, you can have a uploaded video of that so they can see you. They can actually see you talking about your product or service. Same thing with a radio show or podcast. They can hear your voice. They can hear you asking or answering questions that are affiliated with your particular industry. And obviously, the more of those that you do, the better at it that you're going to get. Same thing with writing articles. You know, if you've written a couple of articles, have links to those articles so people can see that. You know, if it's someone that's not able to meet with you in person, you know, if you have that particular product or service where you can sell anywhere, and you have people looking for your product or service that are in California and you're in South Carolina, that's a great way to help them make that decision to purchase from you, because you're doing a couple of things. They can hear you speak, they can see you speak, they can see your words, and they're able to see, hey, this person really is an expert. They know what they're talking about, and it helps them make that decision, that buying decision. So it's vitally important. And I think too, you talk about the average business owner. Some people think, well, you know, nobody would want to hear what I have to say. Well, that simply isn't true. You're doing what you do for a reason. You got into business for a reason because you're very good at what you do, and you need to showcase that. And there's different ways that you can make that happen.
And I think what you just described is really excellent, because a lot of people, when they think about media, I think they don't realize it's things like blog posts, it's things like podcasting. It's not just that you are on the top programs, TV or whatever. It's also just really starting where you are. And with the technology the way it is right now, you have much more access than you used to, where you had to, before you had to pretty much be on a radio station. It wasn't like a podcast that now you can be on a podcast and it's heard all over the world. And you may just pick up the phone and call in, or like we're doing right now, it's not something where you necessarily have to start at the top, I guess is my point. So many people think that's what they have to do. They have to be on the program, or I have to be on this show, and they don't realize it's really not necessary to do that in order to build your credibility.
And actually, it's quite the opposite, Deb, because I was actually just asked to do a feature interview. It was an interview that I pitched to a local popular FM station called First Coast Connect. And it's not an easy show to get on. But one of the things that swayed the person, you know, not only my idea, but I was able to send her a clip of a radio interview that I did a couple of years ago with another podcasting person, a podcasting host, Diane Helbig, and so she could hear my voice. I wanted her to know that I know what I'm talking about. So and here's the clip. So you definitely should be doing podcasts in the beginning, because you want to get better before you do go on television, before you do get on those major networks. You definitely want to have your message down pat. You would never, I would never recommend to anybody to try to go and get on you know, a major news outlet, because even if you did get on there, can you imagine the level of nervousness that you would have at that point? I mean, it would really be over the top, and, you know, it could come out, it could actually hurt you, because if you know, if you're sweating profusely and you're fumbling over your words, you immediately take away that expert status without even realizing it. So you definitely want to, you know, get your skills polished and do as many podcasts as you can, you know, no matter what they are, how big or how small, you know, go that route, because that way you can get your message down pat first.
Exactly. And I can certainly speak to that, because I had published a book, Think Like an Entrepreneur, in 2010, and then I had worked with a PR person, which I know, you know, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But she was able to help me to get in a couple of interviews, actually in New York, which, you know, because I'm right next to the #1 market, so that's why. But the thing was that before I did that, I also did the quote-unquote smaller things. And I had started my own podcast by then, so I was used to talking to people like we're doing, getting a comfort level, just being able to ad-lib if something came up. just being able to handle myself. And then that helped me so that when I was in those venues, of course I was nervous, but I already have the, I guess, grooming or whatever you could call it before I got to that point. So don't underestimate these things. Don't think, oh, that's too small, or, don't act that way, because it really is not true. It's all important. It's all preparation. And you being out there in all these different shows and blogs and things, to me, more likely for people to find you, because, I was on a show in New York. One, I have a recording. One, I don't. I was on Fox Business. Well, that wasn't recorded. It was live. Mm-hmm. So all I've got is that I was on it, but I don't have anything to show that I was there. So that's all well and good, and it's great, but, I don't really have anything to really show people, this is where I was, or this is what I did. So don't think that, oh, this is the ultimate thing and I must be on this, because, if no one sees you, or, you may be on it and that's great, but you may not really get the benefits you think you're going to get, where being on the podcast or having your own podcast, having your blog, being on these other shows, building relationships with other marketers like as yourself, that could really serve you so much better in the long run than you realize.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's the thing I think people should understand. And also one more thing to mention is I know a couple of people who have TV shows with the community, Princeton Community Television. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of people don't realize, and maybe some of the listeners can look into their own local TV stations, is that it's free for people. Pretty much it's not just free for people in Princeton, but anybody in New Jersey who wanted to have a show could do that. Mm-hmm. I didn't know about that. One of my friends lives in Princeton, so she knows about it. But they have their own TV show, and now that's their, a record of what they're doing, and different guests they're interviewing, and the video, and they have access to that and shown. I've seen on Roku, I've seen on Vimeo, so it has distribution. But there's things that you may not even realize exist that you can take advantage of. That you think, oh, I don't know how people do that. I wonder how they do that. And you don't bother to follow up. If there's a local access station in your area, in your community, that's certainly something you should check out as well. Mm-hmm. Because you just never know how that can help you. And especially if it's free, your tax dollars will be paying for that. And here it is, and you don't even know that you can take advantage of it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's something else I think that people need to keep their eyes and ears open about the opportunities all around them. So, Kerry, we're talking about, it could be beneficial, but what are some ways you think it could benefit the average business owner to get the media coverage?
Well, several ways. First of all, one of the things that they have to do is come up with a plan. And we're going to talk about those steps, very quickly, but one of the things you need to do is set up a plan of action. So before you start submitting yourself to different podcasts or writing articles or blog posts for other blogs or whatever the case may be, you need to figure out, okay, what do I want to see come out of this? Obviously, everybody wants sales. That's the ultimate goal. Okay. Now, it might be something that, for example, if you have a website and you have different products for sale on the site, you need to be able to have some type of tracking. And what I mean by that is that, when you are being interviewed and they do give you an opportunity to talk about your business and what you do and offer your website, or at the end of the blog, they have the little bio and a link to your site. Sometimes maybe having a landing page where you can capture email addresses, or even just a free download. Like what we have on one of our sites, we have a free download that we offer. It's a $49 value, and we're able to capture an email address and name. So it gives you something to list build with, but it also gives you an opportunity to track your results. Because if you're doing a lot of shows and you're offering the exact same information, when you're departing the show, that, you can reach us, go to this site, and it gives them a landing page and, capture their information. So that way, people are tuning in, people are listening to your show, and they're going to your site. So that's the ultimate goal with this media, is that you want to make sure that you're seeing some type of results. Now, with other people, it might be call us for a free consultation. Or use this coupon code. When you call us, or if you go to our website, type in this code at checkout, which could be the show. It could be the name of the show. Type in Deb Bailey, in the coupon code to get 10% off or something like that. Have something of value to offer the listener besides the content. Have something else of value that's going to prompt them to go to your site. Because if you have something else, if they like what they hear and you've got something else that could be a free gift or a discount, or they could get a free report, whatever the case may be, if they like what they hear, 9 times out of 10 they're going to go to your website. And that's what you need. You need to be able to have a way of getting in contact with those people again. Now, will some people listen to the program that you're on and go to your website and just go ahead and buy your book, or yeah, that is going to happen. But don't ever make the mistake of thinking, okay, I was on, this podcast yesterday and they have an average of, 40,000 listeners, so I should get at least 4,000 people buying my book on my site. It just doesn't happen that way. Even with high traffic, it's just not going to happen that way. So you have to be realistic, but it can definitely help you and benefit you by helping you build a list to market to, because everybody should be doing that with an email newsletter. Being able to continually to market to those people, because I think on average, what is it? It's like they need to see you or see your name about anywhere from 10 to 15 times before they actually buy from you. That's the average. So the only way that they're going to be able to do that is if you're continually putting your name in front of them. And it could be, too, that they hear you on a couple of different podcasts, then go to your website. Some people take longer to buy. It's just a fact of life. So those are a couple of ways that it can benefit you. And it's so much, being interviewed on a lot of these shows, it's not going to cost you anything, with the exception of your time. And what is good about a lot of podcasts, and even some of the radio programs are doing this now, it's archived. So, when people are doing searches, it might be 2 years later, they come across your information and boom, there's a client from a show you did. So it can continually pay dividends for you as well in the future. And I'm sure you see this too with your own podcast, Deb. We've gone back, when we first started doing our show on BTR back in 2009, I can still log in and see where people have gone back. They still listen. Our show numbers still increase for the first show that we ever did. Yeah. So, and that's because people are going back and listening to it after the fact. They're finding it, however, and listening to the show. So you have to realize that it's something that can continually pay dividends. That's, as far as any type of advertising that you're going to do, long term, it will pay off the most.
Yeah, and I think that is an excellent point, Kerry, because what I have found in many cases, and I don't know if you could say if you found the same, is that some people, and I don't know if it's them or their publicist, who will say, well, how many listeners you have, blah, 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 blah. And they seem to have the impression it's almost like what they call terrestrial radio. Like everybody's going to be listening live in this moment that you're on, as opposed to you're creating something that's going to be out there relatively like forever. They don't have a concept of that. That this is archived and it's going to keep marketing for them even past the initial recording. And it's kind of like trying to get people to see that this is different. It's not like going to a show that if everybody's now watching that moment, it's lost. It's something that's always going to be out there, so they shouldn't be looking for the immediate return, as you said, on investment. And also, number two, I find that sometimes people don't really realize they need to promote their own appearance. So what are your thoughts about those two?
Well, two things. You were talking about PR. We just had a conversation about this. I am. There are going to be times in your business, but it's not going to be in the beginning. I mean, I would even say it's probably going to be after the 10-year mark, where you are going to want to seriously consider looking at working with the public relations firm. And, prior to that, I don't think it makes much sense because of how much they charge. I'm not saying their work isn't worth it, but, the issue with a lot of PR firms too is, that some of them, they will kill more opportunities for you than they will get you. Simply by not, from a media standpoint, the situation I described with you just very briefly, that just because the public relations firm did not follow basic directions and really messed up and moved some things around on my timeline and made it difficult for me, I would not work with this person because I have to work with their PR firm, and their PR firm has no clue what they're doing. So they immediately lost an opportunity without even realizing it. But there are some really great PR firms out there that don't do that. So you really have to do your research. You have to really interview very carefully. And I would even just say, watch how they deal with deadlines, how they deal with calling you back, following basic directions. And it seems silly that I would even say that, but those are the things that really do matter, because this is somebody that's going to be going to media outlets on your behalf, and you want them to be very top-notch. So, PR firms, again, I wouldn't even look at that until you're at a certain level, because I think the average price anymore, it's, you're looking at a couple $1,000s a month to pay for PR. And if you do not have the revenue coming in to cover that, to cover that extra expenditure, then it's just not worth it. And what was the other thing? I'm sorry. There was PR.
Oh, as far as people not really promoting their appearance.
Yes. Thank you. Sorry. Yes, definitely. I have a rule of thumb. If you're not willing to promote the show that you're on, that you're being featured as a guest expert. If you're not willing to promote that, I, as a media outlet, question your expertise. Because if you really were an expert at it, you would be telling everybody, hey, I'm going to be on this show. I'm going to be, I've been featured in this blog. I've been, whatever, to let people know about it, and also putting it on your website. When you don't promote that, you're only hurting yourself in the long run. Yeah. You have to promote it. Me personally, even my radio show now, we have a form that everybody has to fill out, whether you've been a guest on our show before or not. And if you don't fill out the form, there's no consideration there. You're out of the game as far as we're concerned. But one of the things that we ask, we have we expect people to provide us with a certain amount of information. And one of the last questions I always ask, and it's a required question that they have to answer on the survey, it's an electronic survey, is if you are brought on board as a guest, how do you plan on promoting the show? And I have check all that apply. Are you going to promote us through your email distribution list, your newsletter, social media, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and they can click on everything that they're going to do, because another thing is too, from and again, this is from a media standpoint. I've been doing a show for a very long time, and I know you have too. And I don't know if you've had this happen, but I've had 2 instances where we had a guest not show up. And when that happens, we, at the time, we were lucky enough we had pre-recordings that we could pop in and let the pre-record go through. So that's another reason behind me asking people to do that, is because if you're out there actively promoting the show, letting people know, retweeting our tweets that you're going to be on the program, then I know you're going to show up. And it's been very rare, but, you have to realize, too, some of us, there's a lot of, not just the time and energy that goes into putting on a show, but we're getting ready to move our platform over to a paid platform where we're actually having to pay for our airtime. And we're going to be bringing on advertising sponsors. And if we have somebody that doesn't show up, it's going to be a huge problem. Right. And, I will not be forgiving of anybody that doesn't show up, and we understand things do happen every once in a while, but, you have to give people enough time to let them know, hey, we can't show up, we're going to need to find a replacement. So that's another reason why I always tell people I want to see them promoting it. What do you plan on doing? And, usually when I ask that, I see that they are promoting it, and which they should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
Every single guest, if you're getting booked on media engagements, you need to have a press section on your website, just like I talked about. Because, again, all that's going to do is help you. You have people who, you probably have tons of people that come. The average listener for this show probably has tons of visitors to their website every month that they know nothing about them. They, because they don't buy anything or they don't, so, they have these visitors that come and they see their website. And again, if you have a press section, you really are going to see an increase of, people signing up maybe for a free product or buying something or inquiring about something. I saw a huge difference in it for myself personally, because people were in, and they would tell me that, oh, well, I found you online, but I went to your site and I listened to blah, 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 and they fill in the blank of what interview they listened to or they article that they read, and it does make a huge difference because, again, you're helping to establish yourself as an expert, showcasing your expertise, and that is a way that if it's somebody that's online at 2 o'clock in the morning, Deb, they can listen to the interview, hear your voice, and you might wake up the next morning and there's a new prospect for you, or you just made a sale. You never know. So you need you're again, I can't stress this enough. You are only hurting yourself when you don't promote that you're on a program. And for those of you who are on tons of programs all the time, and I've heard this too, if I do 10 interviews a week, or I do, well, I exceeded my goal of 30. And, they don't want to, some people say, well, I don't want to do, bombard my social media people, that I'm on all these shows and it's the same content. Well, fine. Here's a little tip for you. If you are doing a lot of media, what I do is, if I'm on a show and I know it's a topic that I've tweeted about or normally talk about, like follow-up or networking, I'll go to the person's show page and I'll pick a different show that they've, showcased a different expert, and I will, hey, I was just featured on, Faces of Success last week, had a great time. Here's another great interview from them. And this interview is on focus, or this interview is on. So, spread the love. It's still kind of getting the word out there about, hey, you were interviewed, but here's a different interview. So if you're worried that you're over bombarding, your followers with your own content, share something different from that, and all that's going to do is help that show host. And I think you can attest to this too, Deb, as a show host, your job, if you're a guest, you need to help promote the show, and you need to make the host's job as easy as possible. You need to have prepared information and, ready to go. And if you're helping us, myself included, I'll put myself in this category. When I see that people are helping me promote my show, they've been a guest on the show, they're helping me promote it, maybe different episodes of the program, other guests coming on, the chances of me rebooking that guest go up immediately. And that's what you want. You want to be asked back, because being on someone's show twice, their listeners are really going to tune in the next time, because you've already been on there once and here you are again. So that show is a trusted source for them. So all you're doing is you're helping to reinforce that you are really an expert. They're really going to be paying attention this time. So that's the ultimate goal. And that's a great way for you to share information, share valuable content, and to be able to, possibly get rebooked again. 9 times out of 10, when I'm on a radio program, I get asked to come back. Multitude.
Because it does make a difference in how if you're professional and you make it easy for the host, and you promote and all that, you really take it seriously, and that's something that a host really likes to see, because then it's like, oh, that's great, I like working with this person, and I love to do that again, and I could tell, I'm sure you can too, I could tell the people who promote because their numbers are higher, or some people who I connect with on Twitter, who I see, I see them promoting all the time. I see them promoting the show, so I know they really are taking this very seriously. And then some people just kind of disappear into the black hole after they're done. And you can tell by their numbers that they really didn't do anything more with it after they were on, because maybe they just assume that you're going to do all that, or they just assume I'll just show up and interview and go away, and magically it's going to do what it does. But that's not the case, and that, for those people listening, that's what we're trying to tell you. That it's not like that. You have to do some work, besides just showing up. You really have to take it seriously. And also what you said, Kerry, about sharing other things is very important. I do that as an author. You can go on Twitter and see authors promoting their books and then buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. But at the same time, I will promote if I'm having a blog tour. I'm also promoting that blog. I'm promoting other writers who I may know who are like, oh, I have a new release or something. I might retweet that or say, oh yeah, I've read this article where this person was featured, because it's not a competition. You know what I'm saying? So for me to share what they're doing is really good karma. It's, it says, hey, I'm going to congratulate you on your success, or I'm going to say, wow, this person had a good interview. Because it's not just about me saying what I did. Mm-hmm. It makes a big impression when people share other things, like you're talking about sharing what other shows may have, not just yours. It does make an impression. I think more people need to understand that, because I really don't think they get it. I think they think they've just got to promote the heck out of their one thing over and over and over, and they don't really see that it's, if you really work with the host, or, you work with your other contacts or other people who may be doing what you're doing, and you want to connect with them, a way to help to build those relationships is really to show, hey, I like what you did. I shared that here. That may be even a way to create a contact. Mm-hmm. You never know.
Well, and again, the whole point of like with social media too. I really use it as from a branding standpoint. However, when you're sharing valuable content, you're going to get more, more followers and so forth. So you really need to, be able to kind of have a multitude of things that you're sharing, not just your own stuff, because people do get tired of that. So, I mean, that's a great way, too, like I said, because I've heard that before. Some people are like, oh, well, I do 2 interviews a day, and I can't consistently. And it's like, okay, whatever, that's fine. Then all you have to do is pick a different, interview, and you don't even have to listen to the whole thing. Listen to 10 or 15 minutes of it, and if they're sharing good content that you think your followers would be interested in, share that podcast. And like I said, just title it, I enjoyed being interviewed on whatever show it is, and here's another episode you all might find interesting. It's about, you fill in the blank. And share that one. And, if we all started doing that, everybody's numbers do go up. And, you're right. Yeah. I just had Michelle Dutro, who I was on her Game Changer podcast, and she had shared with me on a conference call just last week that I am still the highest rated show that she has with the most amount of listens, and it's because I continually share that link. And of course, I feel like I shared good content, but that's something I love to hear, because I know that's part of the job. When you are a guest on a show or you are writing an article for someone, your job does not end there. You still have a responsibility to promote it.
Exactly. I think that it's just something that we can't stress enough, because I think people just don't, some people anyway, not everyone, but some people just don't get that. And then their numbers, you can see the people who do and the people who don't. It's very obvious. So just something to keep in mind. So, Kerry, what are the top 5 things that business owners should have when they're going to be prepared for a media interview, though?
Well, the top 5 things that everyone really needs to have prepared before they start submitting themselves to media outlets is, number 1, you need to have a professional photo. Now, I have had some people who have submitted photos to me that, there's other people in the picture, or it's a selfie, or you can tell somebody took, a friend took it and it's in their house. You're supposed to be an expert and a professional. Let's see, you need to look like one. So a professional photo. I'm not saying you need to look like a supermodel, but it needs to be a professional headshot. And could be indoor, outdoor, it doesn't matter, but just a professional headshot. And I'm sure you can attest to this, when we're promoting our shows and we have, we need a high resolution photo. If we have something that looks pixelated or doesn't look right or it looks fuzzy, it makes the show lose its appeal. It really does. So you really need to have a high resolution photograph. And if you don't have one, shop around. Typically most photographers, you can get some headshots done for $75 to, up to $200, to get 24 exposures, and you can get one good headshot out of that. So definitely, first and foremost, have a good headshot. Second thing that you need is a first-rate bio. And your bio is basically like your entrepreneurial resume. If you don't already have a bio made, you're in trouble. If you've got a website and you have an About Me or About Us section, you should have a section on there with your bio and, something that's already a separate PDF or Word document that you can email to the person. And it needs to, it's obviously your bio is always going to be evolving. You're going to be adding things to it, taking away, whatever the case may be. If you've been featured on major news outlets, you're going to want to put that in there. If you have classes that you teach or you're a contributing provider for whatever publication, you want to put all of that in there. Your bio needs to be top notch. And what I would suggest, if you don't have one, write one up. Have someone help you with it, look it over, help you kind of punch it up a little bit, because it needs to be exciting, but it doesn't need to be fake, obviously, but you need to make it grab people's attention. One of the things I have in my bio, in the long one, I have that I've interviewed celebrities such as Barbara Corcoran, I've interviewed Larry Wingett and Kim Parrish, who's a former QVC and Miss America. So, those are things that, is it a big deal? For some people it is, because they just love celebrities. They love, to gravitate towards that. So those are things that you want to put in your bio. Put in all of the good stuff. And you don't have to have a long bio. It could be a paragraph, half a paragraph, or, 2 paragraphs, whatever you want to do. But I definitely have a first-rate bio. The third thing that you're going to need to do is figure out what are going to be your areas of expertise. I always recommend having more than one. What I have one client that does is we have 3 areas of expertise that she can speak on. And there are 3 different topics. So once you pick 3 different topics or 2 topics, or even if you just start out with one, I would recommend to have, at least 2. But if you start out with one, have the topic in mind of what you're going to talk about and make it an interesting topic. Like one of mine is follow-up techniques that make sense. So, just have a basic topic, and then you need to create a couple of sentences that's kind of a description of what that means. What can listeners learn if they tune into the program and hear you talk? What are you going to talk about? Put out some bullet points or just like a small paragraph. Tune in to hear, we're going to be sharing the top 5 fascinating tips of shell cleaning or, whatever. So, make it very interesting, but also make sure that people understand that, what they're going to learn if they tune in. Most people listen to talk radio because they want to learn something. So make sure that you are providing good, valuable content. Okay? So make sure that's in there. And then you need to have sample questions. And I always tell people have at least 5 to 10, maybe a few more sample questions. And these questions need to reflect what you have in that topic, what they're going to learn, and it's going to provide really good, valuable content. So having sample topics is another thing. And also you need to craft, so bio, headshot, topic, sample questions, and the last thing would be an email. You need to craft, once you have all this done, craft up a really nice email that you can actually cut and paste but be able to customize for each show or for each media outlet. And your email should basically be, I would like to, submit myself as a guest on whatever show it is, or, I'd like to be considered as a contributing writer for whatever publication. And, just underneath, a very short paragraph about your bio, about why you're an expert, why they're going to benefit from interviewing you. And, I would also put in there, if you have more than one topic, put in there, I'm an expert on the following topics. Like with me, I put in follow-up, networking, and marketing. Once you choose the topic, I will send you a topic outline and sample questions along with an extended bio and headshot for your show. And and I always put in there too, and I would recommend that you do this, but always anything you put in here, you better make sure that you're doing. Because if you tell them you're going to promote the show and you don't do it, you're not going to get asked back. They're probably not going to promote you to other podcasts. But I always put in the ending of mine is that I always, any shows that I am showcased on go into my press section of my website, and we also promote them throughout our social media outlets and our email distribution list. So that way they know I'm serious. I want to get on your show. I want to offer valuable content, and this is what I'm going to do in return. Also, another thing you can do is if you have a free gift, free download, free white paper, whatever, put that in there as well and let them know, we can offer your listeners the following free gift if you would like for us to do that. And, you can put a link to wherever that is. So those are the 5 things that you need to make sure that you have before you start going out there and promoting yourself to a media outlet.
Yeah, that's so true. Especially when it comes to bios and what it is you're talking about and what is your expertise, what's the point, what you're saying. Because if not, then why should people even listen to you? Why should they even bother to interview you or have you do a guest post if you really can't say, well, this is what I do and this is where I'm coming from and my experience or whatever it is that's your claim to fame. You have to be professional about it.
You do, and I would also say to that is that, you're an expert, act like it, and this is part of acting like an expert, just like acting like an adult. But also, too, like with the sample questions, and I've had people come back to me and say, well, I think you should come up with the questions. Well, I don't think you're going to be on the show then, because that's just not going to happen. Now, there was a time I did do that, but what I have found is that logistically, I actually did a disservice to not only the people listening, but also to my guests, because they're really the expert. You never want to put yourself in a position where somebody else is coming up with questions and you get on the interview and it's like a rodeo ride. And I've had it happen. Just this past month I had a show that the host was all over the place and I thought, where is this going?
Oh my God.
Crazy. And
that's crazy.
Exactly. So again, it's making the host's job easier, but it's going to be benefiting you because they can just pull from that list. And those are questions that are going to be crafted by you, so people are going to see that you really are an expert, and you might even be able to tie in a few things about your book, about your product, and why, this is something that, I wrote the book because blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, just to be prepared with everything, and then you give a better impression to the people that you're working with, that you're serious and that, I have all this together already. It's not something that I have to go and pull together, throw together. You make a better impression, and media outlets, just because it may be someone who you think, well, it's just a podcast or just a blog, the people working behind the scenes don't feel that way. They take it seriously.
They do, but let me share some numbers with you, because like I said, my goal was before the end of the year I wanted to book 30 media interviews for myself, whether it was a podcast, radio, or I was focusing on 3 things: podcasting, radio, and editorial. And I think I'm up to 40 at this point.
Wow.
I've well exceeded my goal. And so far, there's been a couple that are major outlets. But the bulk of them that I have done so far have been, the podcasts or the radio shows that are smaller, that do have a smaller audience. And I've gotten better results out of those than I have from, one of the major media outlets that I have published an article with.
Right.
Believe it or not. And I'm talking about results as they're going to my website, they're signing up, they're and some of them are getting ready to buy. And the reason being because these smaller podcasts, people have a dedicated audience. The smaller audiences actually are better in the long run. And if you do this correctly, you're going to see business out of it.
I agree. And I think that's what a lot of people don't get. I was having this conversation, and now I can't remember with who, but the idea that I think previously the way media mass media was. It was all about getting on the 3 networks that we used to have back in the day. There are 3 networks, or maybe some major newspapers or whatever. Oh, I have to be on this or that, or whatever the local paper or station was in your area. But now, I mean, technology has changed all of that. Mm-hmm. So if you have a particular interest or you're an expert in a particular thing, you can find that show, that blog, maybe even that TV show, that web show, and there you are. You can get right into that group of people. You don't have to be trying to get in the largest, outlet ever and trying to compete to get in there, but you can get right to the people who want what you're selling or interested in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Because things can be niched down now to such a degree that I think a lot of people haven't caught on to that or kept up with that idea, and that's kind of what I was also referring to before about people looking at it from a mass media perspective. Well, not really seeing that the smaller outlets and local outlets are really, where they need to, not to feel bad about starting there. That's not a negative at all. It's a positive. Mm-hmm. You want to get in front of people who are the dedicated audience for what it is you do, or what it is you're talking about, what it is you're writing about. That's where you have to go. It's not trying to go big, big, big. I think that's going out of fashion, so to speak, because what's the point of that? That's not necessarily going to help you to achieve what you want to achieve. You have a small dedicated audience of people who will buy what you're selling, who will read what you're writing. That's what you want. That small audience may be very lucrative for you. Mm-hmm. It may be small to someone else who may, scoff because they're thinking about millions of people, but those, hundreds of people may be giving you everything that you want. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at it from a different perspective. I think we're in the transition where some people get it and others still probably don't, because they don't understand the power of technology and how things have changed and how you're now connected around the world. Mm-hmm. And you never know sometimes who's reading your blogs. You don't know who's listening to your show. You're just making assumptions because you're thinking, well, I'm here podcasting from New Jersey, but someone could be listening to this conversation across the world. Mm-hmm. That's where we're at now. So we really have to think a little differently than we have been, I think.
And I would agree. And I think, too, you brought up a good point. It's, and again, going back to what I said before, if you have never done a media interview and you think, again, that the major, and yes, that is the ultimate goal. Do I, with myself included, use myself as an example for this, but do I want to eventually get to the point where I'm able to, get called in, to do an interview mm-hmm. maybe once or twice a year with Fox Business News? Yes. Mm-hmm. Or MSNBC? Yes, that would be the ultimate goal for me. Mm-hmm. But am I at that level yet, even with all the expertise I have? No, I'm not. I still need to get more under my belt. So, obviously, the more podcasting that you do, and I tell people a good rule of thumb is get used to doing lots of podcasting, radio interviews, get your message down pat. The same thing with writing articles, being able to, to do that. Get your message down pat so you are able to speak on it thoroughly, because when you're on TV, and I think that's what a lot of people don't realize too, when you're on television, whether it's a local news station or a national one, and you know what I'm talking about, it's very nerve-wracking. Yeah. And, again, going back to what I said before, if that's where you're starting out, you're going to plummet because you are going to get nervous. It takes away from your expert status. You need to be so used to doing this like you could do it in your sleep before you go to those. And they're going to pick up on that. They're not going and I don't know of any major news outlet, and even in just a middle market that is going to put somebody on TV mm-hmm. That just does not know what they're talking about. They fumble around. It's just not going to happen.
Well,
and for good reason. So, and again, that's only going to hurt you in the long run. So you want to make sure that you have everything down pat. Get as much practice as you can. And like I said, too, sometimes, if you do so many media interviews and you have tons and tons of coverage, that's all, like you said, podcasting, people hear it from all over, so you have all these people in all these major cities that are talking about you, that have interviewed you before. Who knows who that will get back to? And those major news outlets might come to you.
It's true. It's true because at this point you don't know. It was different before, but before, I mean, even a matter of years, not even decades. But now you never know. I mean, there's people. I don't know if you heard that story about the guy on YouTube who made a little video about Patti LaBelle's potato pies.
Yeah.
And it blew up. And I'll just have a side note here. I love Patti, but my mom makes delicious potato pies, so I'm sure my mom's pies are just as good, if not better. So any Patti fans out there, don't come for me. I'm just saying my mom's a Southern cook, so I have to represent. But he went out there, and I saw the video. It was funny. It was cute. And who knew that would blow up? Because you don't know. Mm-hmm. And then, made a lot of money for her. I hope he's catching in a little bit on it. And Walmart's having fun. But you never know what's going to happen. But I don't say purposely go out there and do something saying, oh, it's going to go viral. Because you never know what is going to blow up and what isn't. But the thing is, put in the work, put in the time, do your best, be passionate about what it is you do. And you just don't know where it's going to go, who will see it, how your message is going to get out there. Don't make assumptions that you have to start at the top, because too many people believe they do, and that's not the way it goes. It shouldn't go that way, because you may start at the top and fall down because you weren't ready yet to be there. I had seen something on about the Oprah show, and some family had a business, and they were making some kind of toy, and then they were pitching to be on, and they were on. But then the thing is, they got so many orders, they were overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think they have the business anymore. Yeah. They had to stop production because they weren't ready to fulfill the orders that they got. That would seem like, wow, here I am, and everybody's seeing me, but they weren't ready for the opportunity when it came to them. And now, I guess, like I said, I read that they stopped production. I don't know if they were going to go on with that or another product. But there it was. It seems like the Holy Grail, but it was too much, too soon. So, you really have to realize that when you're coming out here as a business owner or whatever you're doing, writing books or whatever, and just kind of understand that you got to take the time to put in the time, to put in the interviews, to go do the work, to make the connections, and not think you're supposed to just walk out there and start at the top and be interviewed by the top people and, this is how it goes. It really doesn't. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. So, don't have that expectation, because you may not turn out very well for you if that's what you think you're supposed to do. So, where can people find the media outlets, though, that might be interested? Because, that's another thing. People don't really know where to look.
You're right. And one of the things I suggest to people, there's a couple of things that you can do. Obviously, when you're once you have all of this done, you need to find different media outlets to go to find, where you can submit your information to. One of the things that you can do if you're looking for podcasts is you can definitely look for like Blog Talk Radio. You can go directly to their website, and you can search by show genre. So, for example, if you are in the insurance and financial planning industry, you'd want to search for the shows under business that would be insurance related or financial services related, or even just some of the basic business shows, depending upon what you're going to be talking about. And when you find certain shows that you think, hey, my target audience would be listening or tuning in, then you want to contact the show host. Now, usually I tell people if you do it through Blog Talk Radio, there's a button on there that says contact the host where you can send them a direct message. I have probably like 950 emails that are in Blog Talk Radio that I've never read before. And I know most, and I don't know about you, but I know most show hosts, I don't even think they look at that. So my recommendation is you find the show, go directly to their website, because there's always a link for their website, and contact them directly through their website and send them that email that you crafted. So that's one thing that you can do. The other thing you can do is you can go to like TalkZone.com is another podcasting website. You can go to Podomatic and do the exact same thing. Search through those shows. Now, I will tell you, this is the most time-consuming step out of all of them. The most time-consuming step is going to be finding media outlets to market yourself to. So you can go to Podomatic and do the exact same thing. Search by show genre. Figure out which one you want to be featured on. If you're a health and wellness expert or a yoga expert, you're going to look for health and wellness shows to be featured on. Or even some of just the women's shows as well might be a good fit. So you'll just have to kind of think outside the box a little bit and look for those different types of shows, and then go to their website and find their contact information and approach them from there. If you're looking for places to write for articles, you can do a search for, again, figuring out what your focus needs to be. So if you're a life coach, maybe you want to promote yourself to women business owners, and do a Google search, do women business owners, entrepreneurs, or women's entrepreneurs in magazines, and see what comes up, and start looking through those so you can do a Google search and do the exact same thing. But again, make no mistake about it, it's very time consuming when you do it this way. The other idea that you can do is you can purchase a media list. And there's several different ways that you can do that, or, purchase to have access to an actual media directory, kind of like what we have on Strictly Women in Marketing. People can pay a premium amount to have access to our media directory. That having a list will cut down on the time. I will tell you an average for us to find anywhere from, I would say, 50 to 60 shows or 50 to 60 different media outlets. But because we know what we're doing, it could take us up to, 7, maybe 8 hours. And the average person to get that many, you're probably looking at about 10 to 15 hours, because it's going to take you longer. It just will. So, you have to figure out, how much do you value your time to see if it's worth investing to purchase a list.
Exactly. And those are really wonderful suggestions, because people may, they may not know what they should do, and really get some good information that's meaningful, not just people telling them, oh, buy this and you'll magically get in front of all these people, because there's a lot of promises being made out there, and a lot of money being spent, and it may not really help you to get in front of the people that you want to get in front of. So, really take the time, and, if you start out doing it yourself, as opposed to paying someone to do that, if you're not in that position yet, then you really can just start out that way, just reaching out to people, and, just kind of asking to be on the show. Because I did something like that for my books. I had come across an author who has a podcast, and I just did in indirect ways, as we're talking about, you never know who's looking at things. I was looking at an interview for another author, and she mentioned being on this person's show. So then I clicked the link and found that show. I'd never heard of it before, so that's how I found it, in kind of an indirect way. And I just kind of reached out to her and said, well, I'm an author, I've done these kinds of books, and I looked at her books too, so I could kind of say, okay, what does she write? What is she about? I listened to, a show first, it would be nice, and, reached out to her that way. And, she responded right away, and I've done her show a few times. So it's that kind of thing where you kind of reach out, or you see something that may be a fit for you, and, maybe, just try to get a little information if you can. I think that'd be a good idea at first, to see who this person is, what they're about, reach out to them to see if you feel you line up with what they're doing. And then just do it like that, maybe do quite a few at one time, see how it comes back to you. Everybody may not respond, or may not be broadcasting or whatever, but at least if you make that attempt and, just to present yourself, and then kind of show that you kind of know a little bit about them, or you took the time to find out a little bit about what they're doing, I think that also helps as well. It makes a good impression. Because I don't know about you, Kerry, but I mean, I kind of get emails from people who don't even, they'll just have a general greeting on there. It's just a thing they just mailed out to a whole bunch of people.
Right.
And they don't even know who you are, or they have the wrong link. One I got had the wrong link in there for another show. So I'm like, okay, if you couldn't even be bothered to do that, right, should I really deal with you? And I haven't. I didn't even respond to the person because I'm like, hey, you can't even put the right link in there. Then how are you going to be down the road if I'm trying to work with you? I don't think that's going to work at all.
And yes, and I would say too, just going back to the email that I tell people to create, you definitely want to create a shell email. But when you're finding these shows, you do want to customize that and say, hi Deb, I found your show on Blog Talk Radio. I listened to a few episodes. I feel like I would like to submit myself as a guest on your show based on the other people you've interviewed. I think I would be a good fit, and here's why. So you always want to customize it more. You customize each one. Don't just send out just a blanket email. Always customize it. So and you don't have to do a lot of that, but definitely, and especially too if you see something that, hey, I could really you interviewed so and so on your show, and he's an idol of mine, or I've always looked up to him, or he was my mentor. You always want to personalize it, because you're right, we all get those where it's just a blanket, hi, I would love to be a guest on your program. And 9 times out of 10, like for me, because we do marketing, it'll be crazy stuff like a health and wellness expert that wants to come on and talk about losing weight. Well, that's not going to happen. It's a marketing show. So I mean, you could tell that they just blasted out, and that just goes into the delete file. I mean, even if I had a health and wellness show, I still wouldn't, because it was just so blanket and just so generic. So you definitely want to customize those. Exactly,
because it just gives a kind of a bad impression. And if people are busy, you don't know what else they're doing. That's not a way to really get their attention and make a good impression. And that's what you want to do, because you're kind of building a connection there. Hopefully, you never know. If you do really good and you're invited back, or maybe that person introduces you to other people, that's what you want. That's how you grow things. That's how you start out. So you don't want to just throw it out there and not think about, making that individual connection with that person, that you care what they're doing. They're just one of thousands of people that you just send an email out to. And when you get something back, then, I guess you'll sort through them to figure out who you emailed in the first place. Not a good idea. I don't think at all.
Right. It's not. No,
it's not a good idea. And also, I think for people who want to, write blog posts and things like that, you really should pay attention to the guidelines. A lot of blogs will have guidelines. If they really, post things from other people, then definitely read the guidelines, pay attention to them. They're there for a reason. Don't ignore the things that they ask for, because they ask for them for a reason. And, definitely if you feel that you're good at writing, or you feel comfortable with that, then that's definitely a way to go. Because what I think is really interesting is that there's so much emphasis right now anyway on blogging. For a while people just all went to social media, and then suddenly I'm seeing a lot of people having blogging classes and getting people to get back to blogging and all that kind of thing. But then when it comes down to it, a lot of times people don't really, either because they're not comfortable writing or whatever, they don't really follow up with that. Because I'll have people on the show and I'll say, I have an opportunity for you to post on the blog if you want to. And some people will express interest, but then I'll never hear from them. Or they'll say, oh, well, I have the articles, and I never hear from them. So it's kind of like, if you've got an opportunity to have your post put somewhere, then follow up on it, or have some prepared. If the person has a blog or whatever, have some things prepared. Especially if they do reprints, which I do, have them prepared and have your bio on them, or however, your little author about the author thing is, and send them on. pass up on opportunities to get yourself out there. A lot of times that happens. People just don't follow through. They don't follow up, or maybe they just don't have the information prepared. And, they don't do it. And you never know. You never know. Instead of having to go out there and try and ask everybody and their brother and sister, do they post? When you have someone offering to put your post there, then that's something that you should send a bunch right away. Well, here. And I know, a few people who do that. Well, here is 3, 4, 5 articles. And then I'll post them over time, but they're ready. And, I think that's an important thing that we're saying. It's a matter of opportunity. When the opportunity is there and you're prepared for it, then you take advantage of it. Don't just sit there and let it go by, and then you're wondering why the word's not getting out about you.
Exactly. Well said.
Because I'm sure you see that. I'm sure you do, where people just kind of, are kind of lackadaisical about the opportunities that are there, and then they're kind of wondering why they don't get attention. Mm-hmm. Or just bombarding Twitter with their posts about whatever it is they're selling, and they're not realizing that the opportunities are right there that they're not picking up on. So just make sure that you take advantage of that when they're there. So, Kerry, we're a little over an hour, which we that's the standard for our discussion.
That's short for us, I got to tell you.
That's true. So, what are some final thoughts that you have around this topic?
Well, I would just say, again, you need to have a plan. Have a plan about, before you start this process, and that if you need help doing that, you need to find a professional who can help you, through, getting all of this stuff done. One of the things that I would also say too, and I have kind of a free gift. Can I talk about that too? Or
sure.
Okay, good. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I would mention to everyone too is that, going through this process, you need to go through those steps. These are things that are vital. If you don't have these, don't market yourself to any media outlets, podcasts. Don't do it, because you don't have anything on paper. You got to have a plan. You've got to have sample questions. You got to have the topics. I mean, that's like somebody coming to me saying, let me be on your show. Well, what can you talk about? Well, I don't know. Well, how silly does that sound? Exactly. So you need to be prepared. I can't stress that enough. And, getting back to, where you're finding your media outlets, that is, and I'm not kidding, it's going to be the most time-consuming part of this journey. And I would recommend, if you buy a media, get access to a media directory, or buy a list. We have a media directory on our Strictly Women in Marketing website, and I think we're going to have the link in the show notes. But what we have is an online media directory where you can actually search by genre. If you want to just be on business shows, or you want to be on health and wellness shows, or write articles. If you want to just do specifically writing, you can search and see what kind of magazines and publications we have in there, and what each media outlet is requiring, because, like you said before, Deb, everybody is different. Every media outlet's different. They're going to want things submitted differently, and, to have all that information at your fingertips, and then to have the email address of so all you have to do is, gather all that information together, click submit, and, just email it directly to that particular media outlet, and, sit back. And I will tell you, I like to do what I call media blitzing, and I would recommend other people do that too, to where you media blitz a couple of times a year, where you're doing tons of interviews, and then you take a break, and then you do it again over the summer or in the winter. Mm-hmm. So, in order for that to get accomplished, you have to submit yourself to a lot of different outlets. You really do. So having access to a media directory is a huge thing. Right now, what we're doing, it's $79 to have access for a year, and you get tons of other things too. You get a profile on the website. You could be a featured member on the website. You have access to all of our marketing tools, and then we also give everybody 1 hour for the first 200 people that sign up to be members on this site. We're giving them 1 hour where we actually will sit down and help them on the phone and go through their bio, make suggestions, go through their topics, their outline, their sample questions, and help them cultivate all of that. So it's one-on-one help, which normally I charge, it's $150 an hour to get an hour's worth of my time. So that right there is a huge add-on value. After the first of the year, the regular rates are going to apply for $149, and we're not going to be doing the hour-long thing. It'll just be you can submit that information to us, and we can review it via email as a bonus, but there won't be a one-on-one conference call. So that's a huge thing. We do have a free gift on the site that if they go to strictlywomeninmarketing.wildapricot.org, I'm sorry, it's a long URL. If you go to that website, there's a link on there that says free media tips. If you click on that, you type in your email address and your name, and we email you. It's a $49 value, and it's basically audio of the top 5 things that you need to do, and we go into more detail about those steps that you need to create with your bio, with your sample questions. So it's a very valuable download. So I would suggest anybody listening at least go and get that. It's a free download. Take a look at it. And you just have to submit your email and name, and that's emailed directly to you. And they're different tracks, so you don't have to listen to the whole thing at one time. So if you go there, that's a free gift for you, and I hope you enjoy it.
Wonderful. That sounds great. Actually, there's a lot of opportunities there, for people to really help to hone their bio and really get out there and start making these connections. So definitely everyone make sure you take advantage of that. And, I'll also mention quickly that on the blog, Women Entrepreneur Secrets.blogspot.com, there you'll see a little graphic there for the quick and easy podcasting. So those people who may be interested in checking out the information in that ebook about how to make your own podcast, and it says quick and easy because it's, what I'm recommending is a very straightforward way to do that. That's something you're interested in doing is a way to start to market yourself and network as well. You could see more information about that there on that blog, and also it's a little thing on the menu that says store, and you can read some more information about that ebook. There's introductory pricing for the rest of the year. So, that's something for you to do at your own pace and just kind of cut through a lot of the information that may be out here to try to figure out, that's a way that you would like to go. And, I could speak for myself and Kerry. I think that, we've done shows for a long time because it does work. It is something that's a positive for you and a way for you to build your brand and get out there and connect with people. And also, just to build up, I could honestly say build up confidence as you're talking to different people and in different situations. And then, as Kerry said, as you go along and you get better and better and better at it, and then when you want to get to, the bigger outlets, then you've already prepared yourself. You've gone through having these discussions with different people, and it really does prepare you for having conversations maybe on a larger stage. So, don't look at that as something that may not be for you. If you enjoy talking, particularly if you prefer to do that rather than blogging, everybody's not really into blogging. That's something to check out. Something that may be line up better with what you enjoy doing. So, there's something else that you can look into as well.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're a little over, we're not as over as we have been in the past.
Well, that's always good.
It's a relatively short program this time around, but don't worry. There'll be more coming up, I'm sure, as we go into the new year. So, hoping this is very, very helpful for you and just, a way for you to find out what you should be doing for promotions, and that you follow up, with Kerry's site and her services as well, so that you can really get out there and get some good information when you're getting started.
And the same thing, too, with Deb, because she's got great information, especially on the podcasting part. So, and I recommend that, too. Just, that's another great way to build establish yourself as an expert is to have your own podcast. So, good information. Definitely. Those are things you could do without a large expenditure
of money, and if there's other things that you'd like to do, then you can build on this and work your way into other media or the technology if you want to check out. I know for podcasting, it's really a straightforward way for you to kind of get in there and see how you want to present yourself. And I think also if you're a speaker or someone who wants to get into speaking, I would think it's a really good place to start as well. So a lot of advantages that come from that. So I guess we're at the end of this particular program. So I hope you've enjoyed the show, and this will be on Podomatic and iTunes. So please make sure you check out the other shows there. We've done quite a few others that you'll see on both those platforms. So please make sure you check them out, listen in to them as well. And once again, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your hosts, Deborah Bailey and Kerry Heaps. And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye now.